Hey there! Composers do a lot to make a soundtrack, but there's one thing that might be the most important. First, think of your favorite soundtrack. How many songs on it are fully original? You might be thinking, well, all of them, but what if I told you that's probably not the case? I'll give you an example. Let's take Undertale. I know, overused. But when you first boot up the game, this is the first song that you hear, which is followed immediately by this song. Those are the same melody, but that's just the two intro songs. Here's another song from the soundtrack, Home. And another one, Undertale. And here's one of the final songs, Save the World. Out of the 101 songs on Undertale's soundtrack, 17 of them use this same melody. And this isn't even the only time the game reuses its melodies. This technique of reusing a musical idea is what is called a leitmotif, and might just be the most important trick composers use when making a soundtrack. But how do they do it? Well, there are three key parts to making a leitmotif, and I'll show you how I use them to make my own leitmotif, and how you can too. The first part is that the motif needs to represent something. What does it mean when you hear it? The most common uses of a leitmotif are for people or places. I'll be keeping it more simple, but you can get more abstract than that too. My theme will represent a place. A warm seaside village where pirate-like people live. Once we've made our theme, the second thing we need is to come up with the actual motif. This can be anything from 2 notes to a full melody. This can be the hardest part for a beginner, as making a melody and making a melody that actually sounds good can be very different. My best quick tip is to pick a key and just hum or play around until you find something that you think sounds catchy. But don't get too complicated, as you want this to be able to fit in multiple circumstances with your theme. Since mine represents a chill pirate village, this is the theme that I came up with. And with the motif made, the third thing we need to make it a leitmotif is a story to put it in. But it won't be as simple as just plugging it into different songs and calling it good, so we'll go over 6 different ways to use a leitmotif in the 6 songs I made using those methods. Now, about that story. For my first song, a hero, who we'll just call Hero, is looking for shelter as the day comes to a close. Walking along the coastline, they find a village with a bustling tavern. Hoping to find some hospitality, they enter the Treasure Cove. The first way to use your leitmotif is pretty straightforward, just turn it into its own song. You can even reuse the melody within this song by moving it up or down a couple notes within your scale. Since my melody starts on the 5th of the scale, I move it down 2 notes to the 3rd and work the rest of the melody from there. I do this again down to the 1st note later in the song. And to flesh out the song some more, I have 2 other sections. This one that introduces a different melody, and this one that is used as more of a climax before the song loops. At the tavern, Hero meets many people from the local Salvage unit. These are workers who take to the seas to reclaim belongings that are lost due to the frequent storms that wreck the village, as well as just to find new treasures. Of these, Hero meets someone who we'll just call Jack. Jack offers Hero a place to stay for the night with his family. As everybody makes their way from the treasure cove back to the village, Hero can't help but notice the beautiful sunset falling behind the waves. The people they've met so far have been so warm and welcoming, even with their rough appearances. The atmosphere, combined with these amazing people, make Hero feel like they could live here. The second way to use the leitmotif is by changing around some of the rhythm or notes without changing the overall shape. Here, I turn it into a call and response between these instruments and stretch it to be longer to give a much more warm and relaxed feeling to match the village. I even reworked the rhythm of the bass to have these anticipations for the second and the fourth chords. Making these changes while keeping the overall vision of the leitmotif gives a whole new feeling to it, while still being recognizable. The next morning, Jack invites Hero along for a day on the ocean with the salvage unit, to which Hero happily accepts. They make their way to the docks, where a large ship waits while the crew gets ready for another day of work. The third way to use the leitmotif requires some backtracking. I've been treating a leitmotif as just being a melody this whole time, when in reality it can be any musical idea. Here I reuse the chord progression from the leitmotif for most of the song. Hollow Knight's soundtrack does something similar, reusing the bass line from the title theme in the bass for the fight with the False Knight. If it's not clear enough yet, adding other motifs will really fill out the song and give more things for the listener to latch onto. For example, this is another leitmotif I've used in at least one other song before. A good soundtrack doesn't just have one leitmotif, it has as many as the story calls for. After a couple hours at sea finding lost and new treasures, storm clouds begin to roll in and the crew heads back to land. As they're returning, the storm is getting worse and they find an awful sight. The village is being attacked by creatures coming from the ocean's abyss. Before the ship can even get docked, Hero and Jack jump out and do what they can to fend them off. The fourth way to use a leitmotif is simply by changing the instruments. This is something done quite literally in the songs Home and Home Music Box in Undertale. I don't do it exactly like that. Instead, since this battle theme takes place in the village, I take the village theme and remix it with brass, drums, and electric guitar. It is a little bit faster, and the ending is a bit different, but at its core it is almost the exact same thing, just with different instruments. After fighting for what felt like too long, Jack runs back to his house to check on his family. The building has been severely damaged, and inside he finds the one thing he did not want to see. His family did not survive the encounter. Remember how I mentioned that a leitmotif doesn't have to just be a melody? The fifth way you can use a leitmotif is actually that you can use an instrument as a leitmotif. You may have noticed that most of the songs so far have included a guitar in one way or another. It is very prevalent in I Could Live Here, it outlines the chords in Salvage unit, it even turns into an electric guitar for I Could Die Here, and it makes its return here to add to the somber sadness of this song. And to end the song, I bring in two clashing motifs, almost fighting with each other to represent a building anger and sadness within Jack. But what if Jack's family was saved? In a different timeline, Jack and the hero fought off the monsters with the utmost efficiency. The hero showed exactly why they've earned that name and stopped any more harm from coming to the village. Jack hurries back to his house to find his family holding each other, safe. Relieved, Jack embraces them all. The sixth way to use a leitmotif is by pushing the boundaries of how much you can change it without it losing its identity. Here, I changed the chord progression, the key, rhythm, and even put it in the major key instead. There are so many ways to work a leitmotif, and I encourage you to find new ways to make them work. In fact, I asked my Discord members to take this leitmotif and make their own versions of it. Out of the 8 people that submitted, these are my 3 favorites. Leo here went for this chiptune song, which is inspired by a certain Sanctuary song from Deltarune Chapter 4. I'm a fan of the way they use the leitmotif, but more than anything, I like the part that comes right after it. I don't know exactly what it is about this section, but the big chords combined with the weird rhythm is super fun, and I really like this one. Next, CzarFish went for this cute bubbly song, which I'm really impressed with how they incorporated the leitmotif. When I was listening through it, I was like, did I miss the leitmotif? Is it somewhere? And then it comes in, and it works perfectly. I would have never thought to turn this motif into anything like this, and I'm really happy that they did. And last, my favorite one is this one by Chroingle. The motif is right up front and center, and they turned it into this awesome Tokyo Drift inspired song. The whole thing was just such a banger, and I'm really impressed by this piece. There's links for all three of these people in the description, so you can go listen to more of their stuff, as well as a link to the Discord if you want to listen to the other members' submissions. And if you'd like to even share your own music or talk with other people making music, you can join the Discord for that, or even maybe join another one of these challenges in the future. And if you want to listen to any of the music I made for this video, there's links in the description to where you can go and find those. Well, with that, I really appreciate you for watching. If you liked it, a like would be really appreciated. I put a lot of effort into this video, and if you could make sure you subscribe so you don't miss more like this in the future. Thank you. Have a good one.